You and that was mentioned a while ago.
There's like a whole
I
conversation
was
about it.
thinking about my golf game.
Are you getting
Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to the study session of the county board. Would you all please rise and join me in reciting the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For the record, Andy is out of town and will not be here today.
Where's he at?
He's a bullet. No, I'm not saying it.
Unless we want that on public record.
You get me in trouble with Cindy. At any rate, this morning, the first item of business is we do have guests here from Ameren. The people we have here, I don't know their last names. We have Leah and we have Jim, and we'd like to welcome you. You asked for time to come in and talk to us about the project down south. So whichever one of you wants to start.
Okay.
I understand you're going to take questions and concerns and so forth, so
Correct.
please.
Yeah, so thank you for letting us come in. My name's Jim Johntree. I'm the project manager for the transmission line project called Sugar Creek, Kansas. This is Leah Detmers. She's an expert in stakeholder relations and generally tries to keep out of trouble. It's a full-time job, just trying to do that, I think. But, you know, I kind of wanted to maybe begin maybe more. It's always with an apology in some way, it seems, but should have been here probably a little bit sooner in this process with the way the sort of world is now. We had kind of stayed away from public and open meetings, things like that. But anyways, we're here now to kind of answer your questions. And the first thing I'll do is give kind of an update on the project. So, you know, we started kind of the field work, you know, what I'll call the field work, last November, which was started out with tree clearing the right of way, stuff like that. That progressed up through March. We completed that process. Then we started foundation construction in May, and that went from May until July 2nd, and all foundations are now installed. We had 197 foundations that we installed in a little less than 2 months, so it was a busy time. Then in June, we started, the electrical contractor mobilized to the area, and their role right now is they're receiving material, staging it, and then in June they started hauling it out to the right-of-way. So you'll see the steel structure is now sitting out there on the actual right-of-way. So with all that going on, June was a very busy month, I think, as far as what activity you saw, certainly in the county. With foundations completing, that really reduced a lot of the activity that you see in the use of with the concrete trucks not using it, and you know, the concrete contractor not being there. That really will, I think, help reduce the amount of activity that you see in the area. The electrical contractor will be continuing to work staging structures between now and they'll finish the actual structure hauling probably in September. They'll be hauling material, and they're going to start setting poles. You'll start seeing those go up in the air probably this week, pending the conditions. I think we got rain here yesterday, I'm assuming. There's going to be more rain this week, so if it's kind of wet and muddy out there, I don't know how much work they'll actually get done, but you should start to see the actual structures go up. You know, they'll continue to work on that probably up through end of October, really, when we plan to put the line in service later in November. So that's kind of a quick update of where the project is. I don't know, maybe I'll pause there and see if there's any questions just around what I talked about there. Yes, sir.
Now, I know some south on Route 1, you go down the bottom of the hill, and you look to the east, there's a strip where they're taking the corn out. Do they give farmers back money for how much corn's been taken out?
So,
Or is that something that?
yeah, I mean, each property is different. Everyone wants something a little bit different. Typically, in a crop field like that, we prepay damages, so we've given them money at the beginning to accommodate both the initial crop loss and then a staggered payment, not staggered payment, but like because there's going to be some time for those crops to get back to what their full productivity would be. So there's, I think, a 5-year plan of reduced forecast, and and we pay them that. A lot of times folks will take that at the beginning. Sometimes they'll wait until the end and then you settle up then, depending on what the actual damages are. But yeah, typically.
Going forward, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like the next issue, traffic-wise, road-wise, that kind of thing, is actually going to be running the lines themselves, because that's gonna involve road closures. And, you know, I don't know if I have a comment, request, whatever, but that's going to be the time when cooperation between us and your subcontractors are really gonna be important, because I'm sure the people down in those neighborhoods would like to have a little bit of a clue rather than turning a corner and finding it, and for law enforcement, because I assume they'll be involved with helping monitor that, so.
I appreciate that, that's a good note. You know, with the IDOT roads, we get permits from IDOT, to do that, and they coordinate the shutdowns, but then on the specific smaller county roads, but no, that's working with you folks to make sure that we have that set up. And kind of the good thing with what we'll do with the wire pulling is once the wire is kind of actually in and up on that initial pull, then a lot of the work is actually done by helicopter, where they'll actually take a guy out, or guys out, and actually do the final clipping. So that becomes, to me, a much less impactful situation. You're just really kind of all in the air and not having to use the road so much. But that's a good note, thank you. Yes, sir.
Was all the concrete supplied by a company out of Edgar County? Do you have a contract with a certain company that supplies you concrete? We have a concrete company in Paris.
Right.
I was wondering if they were involved in any way in supplying any of the concrete.
I'm not sure. Ameren doesn't contract for the concrete supply. Our contractor who with Blocker Construction Concrete, or contracts for it. I can find out, but I believe they were sourcing it from, there was a kind of a larger company out of Mattoon.
Yeah, right.
And so I probably saw that, but, you know, when we're out here working in the areas, a lot of times we're going really, we have a lot of production going, we're often drawing from other plants that I may just not be aware of it. And,
I just wondered.
yeah, I can check.
We always try to keep stuff local. And to us, that makes sense because we represent the county, so.
Right. And, you know, I just, you know, my philosophy is if we're out here working, it's best to push things locally too, because you tend to get somewhat better buy-in to an extent.
Well, I think still you get a lower price, but same token, I mean, you know, just like I said, we try to do everything local as much as we can, so.
I think what I heard was that they need so much concrete that one could not supply it quickly enough, so they had it here and a couple, 3 other places just to keep up. So,
And that's been an issue that everybody's on top of and they're looking at, but the company that did it's out of Mattoon.
see,
But they have a bulk plant set up in Edgar County
Right.
to help with some of it, and concrete came from both. Well, that gets confusing on the sales tax issue. So that, I mean, I know people have been looking at it, I haven't heard any results, and I think it's all going fine. It's just
If I
one
could
more little
interrupt,
complication.
Phil had a question.
I just have a request. This fall, when you're down there, there's gonna be a lot of harvest going on. So if you know there's gonna be a road closed, could there be any way you let the landowners know, so say we're gonna shell corn on my road and you're gonna close that road that day and I've got equipment moved down there, we'd like to have like a week's notice. I don't think that's too much to ask.
Yeah, I guess maybe a question would be, where would be the best way to get that notice out for folks to see it?
Just come talk to the landowner.
Dumped off my road.
Well, it'd be nice to have it for more than the public.
Well,
Because, you know, you have a lot of people that are gonna be farming that aren't necessarily landowner, but
and I don't know how you do that, but that's just a request I have. And then another question I have, the dirt that is actually removed from the pole placement, whose dirt is that?
You mean like a question of ownership of the actual
Yeah.
dirt? Well, you know, when we go through the process of like the negotiation for the right of way, we'll ask what the landowner wants to do with that dirt.
My question is, whose dirt is it?
I don't, well, that's a kind of legal question, I'm not sure I'm the best person to answer that, but I would assume, just my thinking is that if it's a part of that property, part of that, I guess ownership wise, it would be their dirt, I guess.
The
I'm not-
landowners.
Yeah, I'm not.
My understanding though, Phil, was that it's whatever if there's 20 parcels of ground, there's 20 different agreements. And it's up to the,
In my personal case, I know it was told it was our dirt to be used at whatever, then the dirt was removed without our permission.
well, then you need to,
Oh, don't worry.
no, I'm not trying to be a smart guy, just said,
I just wanted an answer on that side.
well, you know, it's per contract.
Yeah, if there's something specific that you want to ask, but I guess you have property out there, I'm assuming, so if that's the case, something specific you want to address, we can do that, but, you know, I don't know particulars of what occurred on your property.
You will.
How many poles do you have?
I was supposed to have one, they misplaced one, now I have two.
You get paid for 2 poles then?
No, one. They'll
Okay.
also see that.
You get paid for the misplaced pole?
No,
No, that's not right. Yeah, I filed a complaint.
I think that's
Don't
being
worry.
negotiated.
Do what?
it's in the process.
Okay.
Other questions?
Well, a concern I have is, I'm sure you're aware of the controversy that happened, when was the big rain, 5-inch rain?
Oh.
Yesterday.
Well, way back.
A month or so ago, I'm sure you're aware of that
There was like
caused,
5 to 7 inches of rain or something.
right, and I got a call, you know, it came on Wednesday night. They shut the operation down on Thursday, but they came back in on Friday, which was way too soon, and done all the damage down at the bottom of the 5 Mile Hill. I received a call Sunday from concerned people down there and spent several hours down there looking at all the damage and talking to people, and the county highway was there and everything. And then Monday morning, when they were back working again, I talked to the guy in charge and talked to Mr. Becker, and you know, they were trying to work with him and everything, but obviously the damage had already been done, and there was quite a bit. And you know, when I was talking to him, he said that, I said, why couldn't you have waited another day? And he said, well, we gotta go, you know, we've got a deadline, and you know, I guess I understand that a little bit, but if they just waited, you know, they didn't work all weekend, if they waited till Monday, and a lot of that could have been avoided. And by them going in there on Friday, not only did they do damage to the fields, the roads, the ditches, but the fields, that's damage that's gonna be there for a lot of years. And I know there was 5 years, you know, you were talking about that, because my mom owns a couple hundred acres south of Paris, and there was pipeline on that ground. And they came in the spring when it was wet, and it took 5 years to get things back to normal. But I just think that they could have used better judgment in that situation. And I know he felt like, or this is what he said, it was pressure because of the contract or whatever from Ameren, that why they had to go. And obviously, we had 5+ inches last night, so hopefully this operation's a little different than what the other operation was. But still, if they have to get out in there, they're gonna do damage that's not necessary as far as I'm concerned. So, I mean, that's something hopefully you can relay on to the contractors that, and I talked last Friday, I spent several hours, I drove from the Conlog Road over half of your route, looking to see what damages and see how much improvement there's been since a month ago. Obviously, the night before that I drove, there was 1 inch of rain, and nothing like a 5-inch rain, but I saw in one case down by the 5 Mile Hill where, you know, these wood planks that they're put out and they're supposed to use across ditches, they didn't use. But after 1 inch rain, there wasn't, back in a month ago, they were cutting ditches. The ditches were cut that deep with them crossing, not using the wood planks. And I asked this guy, I said, are you using the wood planks? And he said, yes, we tried to, which he wasn't the one driving it, obviously. But he said, I just said, you need to be conscious. There's a lot of people, obviously, that don't want you here, this is forced on them. But you need to be conscious of that, which he said he was. And, but I said, we just need to have things go smooth. And he said, we're trying the best we can. He said that, you know, if we do any damage, we try to, if we can, fix it right then. But I drove the rest of the route, and overall, it wasn't bad. You know, I don't have any complaints, you know, and I drove pretty well all the way, because I know where the route goes, and I drove it all. And there's a few instances where I saw they were, semis probably cut in the corner and was running over the tin horns, and in one case it was bent down. But hopefully, this is all being documented in the county highway, you know, when this is all said and done, we can get things fixed back to like it was according to the contract and everything. But in general, other than that incidents that happened back there, it hadn't been too bad. That's the only time I ever had any complaints. I tried to stop at some different places when I was driving through, no one was home, just to see if there was any complaints. But, so.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to do that. You know, I guess, sort of, my philosophy of the foundation crews is to get them done as fast as we can. Because their work tends to be the more impactful work as far as, in my opinion, the roads are concerned, because you have the concrete trucks that come from Connecticut or wherever. They're the ones that are traveling more. You get down to the electrical contractor, they're just coming from the laydown yard out, and then once they get out there, get the material stage and other stuff, it tends to be less. So I mean, yeah, I will drive them to get done as fast as they can, because I want them gone as fast as I can. And then that reduces a lot of the impact of the traffic that you see.
But we had a lot of complaints, you know, in that time frame. We had obviously complaints on the damage to the fields, but the roads, the ditches. We had complaints about trucks being overloaded. We had complaints about speeding. We contacted the sheriff, and he sent patrols down there to monitor and everything. And I don't think he had any issues with any of the trucks while they were down there and everything. I know he was going to contact the state police to see if they could bring a crew in to check weights. You know, I don't know whether that ever developed, but, you know, just continuing on, we need to monitor and make sure that you folks, the people that are working for you, are doing what they're supposed to do and not abusing the roads of Edgar County. And hopefully not abusing the rights of the citizens of Edgar County also. You know, that's a concern. You know, someone's got to stand up for them.
Right. You know, with the roads, well, we talk about, you know, from a safety perspective, the traffic.
Right.
And being, you know, safe drivers, watching out for the public, watching out for, you know, for speed and all that other. We talk about that pretty much every week with
Right.
them. Our construction supervisor is not here. He's on maternity leave, but he definitely reinforces with them. You know, the good thing, you know, with the only really large loads we have coming in now would be as we haul the steel poles out.
Right.
But then we do have the two cranes, there could be 3 cranes. Those are the larger than what we'll have out on the road. So I guess if there's issues with the roads, you know, that anybody's aware of, I think that's getting passed on to Josh and the county engineer.
Right.
And then he works with our contractor, who's actually also named Josh, but he works for Volker. And then we talk about it, we agree on some fix, and then we compensate the county for it. If there's anything else we need to do along those lines, you know, we'll do it. I think when we talked last week with Josh and Aaron and the president board, you know, we're going to look at now maybe modifying some of the haul routes a little bit, see if there's other opportunities where we can speed up some of the fixes. You know, I guess I don't want to leave you guys in a position to where you kind of have to make excuses for the condition of the road. We don't want that. So if there's things we need to do to accelerate work forward, you know, I can understand that and appreciate that it keeps you out of a bind for one thing, but it also can have the road fixed to a better condition, should make everybody else happy. I did ask our contractor to go back and look, because we do what we call the road monitoring. on an internal basis as construction moves along to see, document internally what are we seeing out there as far as the roads are concerned, damage-wise. So I asked him to go back and look, where are we at now? Are we seeing significant areas that are concerned? Do we need to accelerate some of the fixes? Kind of stuff like that. So I did ask him after our meeting last week to do that and look at it, so.
One of our concerns, Carl, was, take this however you want, but if they finish the fall and they're out of here, it's gonna be more difficult to get together and get things done next
Right.
spring. And we made that clear. We understand there's we just wanted to see whatever we could get done this fall in stages. And they're working from one direction to the other, that we try to get at least some baseline fixes to it, and a couple of roads get some major fixes to. And that's what we're working on. That's what Josh, Jim, and Aaron are working on, so that we can get a head start on some of this stuff. Okay?
Yep.
Does that summarize it, Jim?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was gonna ask, had two things. First of all, Josh, are you happy with, the relationship and how the information's been flowing and the things going smoothly on your end?
For the most part, it's moving fairly well.
Okay.
I get a pretty decent relationship with it. Josh and Volker, and passes stuff back and forth as best we can
Okay.
as it comes up.
And then I'd like to back up a little bit, and this is probably our issue. You had asked the best way to get the information out as far as road closures for lines. Josh and probably Derek, what's your opinion? What is the best way for us to get the information out and for them to get the information to the people in those areas about when roads will be closed?
Is there a website that you could put it on that would show or an email that everybody could sign up for? I mean, and I know, because I sit around at breakfast and the farmers are trying to decide, well, because of the moisture, we're gonna move here, and the weather was bad, so, I mean, there's all kinds of things, and I know it'll be the same way there, but if there could be a two-way, either texting or a website or whatever works.
We have a website, but we also have social media means to set that up too. So if you have a social account through the county, we could set up a notice, and that way if something changes because it's construction and weather-based, rather than a website where it's more stagnant, and we can send out emails to the appropriate folks. We've done that in the past, and that's not a problem at all.
I didn't mean
That
to
was gonna be
step
my
on it.
question that, before you asked it, that was gonna be, what is your preference, just to get that message out there. Social works better in that context because it can change very quickly, and so depending upon whether we can have that changed.
Josh, that's something you can post, right?
The highway department doesn't have a website.
Oh, I thought you worked with,
Ross.
Ross.
He posts stuff on the county website.
And Jeff, our
Go ahead.
website, he does use Facebook and
Okay.
Twitter, I believe.
Can,
Yeah,
Leah
yeah,
and you, and this is
absolutely.
Augie Griffin, our
Yeah,
county
I
clerk.
talked to Mr. Griffin,
Maybe
yeah.
we can, does that seem,
Mm-hmm.
is there a better way somebody?
I get emails from Aaron and Josh, so as long as they get contacted, Aaron.
Yeah, and we've
Well,
emailed in the past too with local law enforcement offices as well. That's not an issue.
yeah, and that's great with law enforcement, but if we can get something on, Ross can get something or a link for a Facebook page, just because I know I'm gonna have people ask me, hey,
Yeah.
how can I find out, and, if I can
Mhm.
have a direction to send them.
Well, I realize there's probably, it's not gonna be perfect based on, as discussed, timelines, construction changing, but something that we could post in the paper, I assume, as well, get that, put out of, a schedule of events that is upcoming, and then we can modify weekly. That'd give everybody a pretty good idea, and then the people that it pertains to most have a means published in the paper of, hey, go to this site for most up-to-date
In
information.
the Prairie Press.
Right, yes.
I think I'll say, there shouldn't be a ton of closures. They work really hard to make sure that we put it in their contract, that they're gonna keep the roads open and useful. So closures, I think they'd be pretty rare and or short. If they're gonna get wire across something like that, that should be a short, temporary, wait a minute while we get the wire up in the air and they'll build a guard structure and it just sits up there. and
Like an
just-
hour type, or when you say
Yeah,
short, is it?
yeah, something like
what's
that
short?
maybe, yeah, but, you know, we can work with them to just say, well, you know, where are you going to be stringing? Say, these roads may be affected.
Yeah, we're gonna be in Kansas Township
Yeah.
this week, and
On
Yeah, 'cause we
82,
next
yeah.
week I'll be in Salem, you know, stuff like
Yeah,
that.
just a heads up means a lot, because, you know, if you're in a hurry to get from one place to another and you're driving something that you can't back up and
Right.
suddenly you're sitting there for an hour, that gets frustrating.
Augie, did you
hear
have
about
something to add?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to let everybody know that the highway has done a very good job over the years of notifying interested parties of road closures, like when a bridge is going out, I'll get that email, and there could be, trash, ambulance, school buses, what am I missing?
911,
It's just all
First
kinds.
responders.
Yeah, all kinds of people are on this mass email. And so I think it's not gonna be a difficult thing to accomplish, because they've done a very good job of that. So I just want to throw that out there.
So just to reiterate, check with the social channel, check with the email, and work with the sheriff's department as well, and then the Prairie Press advertising notification. Okay. And if there's anything else that you think of, we can always modify too, and it's not an issue.
Yes.
I know we have a road use agreement that says when you finish, the roads will be put back the way they were. What about landowners if they have any damage?
That'll be
This is
handled
not
by the
covered.
landowner's contract. It has nothing to do with
That's
that
what
at
I'm
all.
saying, there's nothing in here.
Nothing, we don't have any responsibility or anything. That is between the landowner and Ameren.
So like Bill, if he has a problem, he's gonna do it individually.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, when it comes to repairing of ditches right away, that's
under the
That's under the
regulation.
Yes.
Okay.
And please, if you feel that something that shouldn't be in your contract, but should be in, please let Josh know so that we can deal with it. Because, you know, there's gonna be instances where things may fall, this is a big project. We don't want things to fall between the cracks,
Right.
okay? Anything else?
That was it for me. I think, we had, you were gonna talk about doing a day out at the park.
So typically, when we do have stringing of wire and conductor in that phase coming up in August, we invite the county board members and county commissioners, depending on where we're at, to come and look at the job site and watch the helicopter string. It's kind of an interesting process. And Jim and construction can actually lead you through the process of how we construct the projects, and there's usually 6 stages, and this is the 5th stage, but it'll show you why and how we do it, and I always learn from it every time I go, and I always think it's very interesting. So if that's something that the board would be interested in doing, we can set up on a construction site with a landowner's permission and show you the helicopter and how we string it, and the aerial line workers that are on that line doing
That'd be
the work.
interesting.
It's
Gentlemen?
something that you don't get to see a lot. I mean, it's,
I think the answer is yes,
okay.
isn't it, guys?
Yeah.
Would you be
And do you
interested?
want me to work with Mr. Griffin on setting that up?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would be great, Leah.
will do. And keep it towards the morning rather than afternoon.
We're all pretty busy.
Okay.
Derek?
Well, we'll see what the flight conditions are, because that's always weather permitting. We don't want high winds, so.
The only thing,
Absolutely, and it will be starting in August when we do that, so.
I would guess, but probably September, probably more likely
Oh,
time
okay.
frame for us to do this part. Just we want to make sure we have a good spot set up, and all the structures are set, so
okay.
we'll work on the time.
Did you have anything else, Leah?
No,
Jim?
thank you.
Other questions that you've thought of? Thank you for being here then.
Thanks for having us,
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
And if you're welcome to stay, but you're welcome to boogie, and you'll be in touch with Josh and Aaron and all that.
Yep.
Right.
absolutely.
because we had some.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. Adam, did you have anything you wish to address?
In full disclosure, we did have a couple complaints over the past couple of weeks. One of them involved a response time issue. There was 11 minutes from the time of dispatch to on scene. Just so you guys are aware, that was due to a high call volume. There's 4 calls at the same time, so a truck did have to go back in service to handle that 4th call. If you guys hear anything about that. Then we fielded another complaint about someone felt like we took too long getting from the house to the hospital. It was actually out of town hospital. They thought we should have ran lights and sirens. Our policy is we don't run lights and sirens to the hospital unless it's a time critical issue. In that case, it was not. They were fully understanding of that, but in case you guys do hear of either of those are both addressed and taken care of. In reference to Gary's article after the last meeting, Clark County, we've only had one issue down there. We've only had to go down there once lately, so that's kind of been a non-issue for us. Article mentioned that we're contracted with 3 trucks. Just want to clarify, we're only contracted 2 and providing 3. Then, as far as the hospital goes, we were allowing, kind of open up the visitors with the increase in COVID cases, which are increased again today. We have back visitors back off, so you can see all that information on the Horizon Health website and Facebook page.
Let's start with positive now. The paper said 21.
Last I saw was
So in
26.
the meeting this morning, they said there were just more. They did not give the numbers. I don't have that.
The last report I got was 26, Dan, and I don't think I've got one this morning.
Okay.
We've
Carroll
been,
paper a little behind.
we've actually been transporting several cases. I can't get the specifics, but
Okay.
you guys have anything for me?
Were you guys gonna buy a 4th ambulance? I can't remember.
So we do have, we do have a 4th ambulance. It is a reserve unit. It's fully stocked with everything the rest of the ambulances have. And there's been a couple occasions we have thrown a crew together to staff that 4th one. But for right now, 3 is usually more than plenty.
Right.
But we do have that 4th one if one of the mainline trucks goes down, or we do need to throw a 4th truck in service. There is enough equipment on that truck. There's, like I said, the same equipment is on the 4th truck that is on every other truck.
You just happen to have that night, that good nightmare scenario where everybody called all at the same time.
That's exactly, the past couple of weeks have been abnormally busy.
Really?
Well, I'd say I appreciate you pointing that out, because I think it's worth mentioning and repeating that, you guys have been going above and beyond as far as the vehicles and staffing, so that's much appreciated. So thanks for pointing that out.
In the subject of ambulances, don't forget that we have a public hearing tonight at 7 o'clock. The attorney for the Northern Edgar County Ambulance Service will be there to explain to the opposition, if there is any, to hear the opposition and any statements, and offer them redress as far as being able to start a petition and what those requirements are. But that's at 7 o'clock out at the American Tap on the corner of 36 and Route 1. So I wanted to remind board members, you do not have to be there. You're certainly invited, but so that's the situation. Is there any questions about that?
What's the next step after this hearing?
We have to wait for 60 days, and then they have to have 51% signing a petition, and we're trying to ascertain what those numbers are. So we're working on that.
So then after 60 days, if there's no petition,
Or if the petition doesn't meet the requirements of the law,
then what do we do?
then we set up a committee
Okay.
and move forward from there, so that we have to, then we'll also have to do a levy this fall for the ambulance service. I've already talked to Derek, and of course Derek is probably not gonna be, well, you're moving what, next week, so.
Yeah, basically August 1st.
So, but he's still willing to help us since he had the experience, and then we'll put people on, I would guess, that's what the board would wanna do, is put people on from up north so that they can draw up the specifications for the ambulance service. Okay, thank you, sir. Is that the way you read it?
Yeah, well, I guess my question is, just trying to think back, was there specific documentation or is there some other statute, for lack of a better word, that goes together to establish that special service area that is separate from the contract? And if so, is that just basically put together by the state's attorney, or what does that look like?
That's already been passed by the board, right? We passed that ordinance setting it up. And within that
So all the
ordinance is
language
how
is-
that ordinance is set aside by a petition signed by more than 51%.
So for all intents and purposes, it'll look very much like this last iteration where we set up a new contract with, put it out for bid with our specifications and then put the contract in place afterwards.
That ordinance defined the area, the
That's all.
whole
Okay.
thing.
Good to go.
Okay? Yes, John?
From you two guys in that district, what's your gut feeling on, do you think there's gonna be a possibility of a petition with more than 51%, or? I mean, just a few people I know in that district, everybody seems in favor of it, so.
The only thing I can point to, John, is the advisory referendum was 75%
Yeah.
voted for it and 25, and I'm rounding that off.
Right,
It may have been 74 and 26. Now, we have had some feedback, as well as Augie, from people that own property that are from out of town and out of county, that have concerns about that, asking, will that apply to them also?
I've had 2 phone calls.
Right, and of course, it's property tax, just like any other tax, and
about those.
doesn't matter whether you live on the moon or in Arizona. If you own property in Edgar County within that special district too, your land is gonna be taxed.
So 51% of the voting population has to.
We're checking.
Has to say,
Go ahead, Augie.
sign the petition.
Well, our preliminary interpretation, and we're gonna find that out for sure, it's 51% of the electors, the voters, and 51% of the landowners.
Right, together.
whichever is higher, probably.
No,
No?
51% of each.
Need both.
Oh,
That's the way we understand it, the way it was written, so.
Okay.
So, that's. If it's landowners, for example, we sent out, and this is not a hard figure, because like Dan and Wanda Winans, they pointed out that part of their property, they got 3 different notices. Wanda got one, Dan got one, even though he's deceased, and Wanda and Dan got one together. So.
Just from like the plat.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we asked the landowners, if you took 51% of that total at the end of that printout, it would be 1,393, would be 51%. Now, then you've gotta also figure, and I don't know how many electors are in those counties,
I can
I
find
mean
that out.
townships,
Yeah.
but then we'd have to have 51% of them also. So it's, to answer your question, they've got a large hill to climb. How's that? Any questions about that? We're gonna have the place set up for 50 with distancing and, everything else, and fall within if we have more people, according to the notice and everything, we can adjourn that meeting and then have another meeting a few days later and hold it again, and for other people that might wanna come. So
Can you
that's,
move it outside?
well, yeah, we could, but the last I saw, that whole parking lot's flooded.
Yeah. Are we gonna need a shift or a boat to get up there?
No,
yeah, I
it'll
can
be
fit a
fine
canoe
by
on the
then.
truck.
We got, by the way, I got 7 1/4 inches last night. 7 1/4, so we had quite a bit of rain.
A lot
Jim
worse
and-
up there, was it?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to make sure everybody was aware, and we revisited this and hear any questions you might have so that we could maybe get them answered before tonight, so we could figure out what, and, like I said, I'll call the meeting to order, and then it'd be pretty much the attorney to explain all that stuff, because I don't want to. I don't mean to make it sound that way, but. Okay. Derek, do you have some stuff you want to tell us about where you're at and what you're doing?
In terms of the jail?
Yes, we'll go into closed session after that, okay?
We'll hopefully, we talked about bringing prisoners back, inmates back this week. I don't know if that's still, Jay and I got kind of separated at the end of the week last week, so I don't know that we are this week. But probably definitely next week we will have inmates back in the jail. Jail staff's working out fine, no problems there. I know I spoke to you guys last time, you asked about the females, where we'll be housing them. I believe we worked out an agreement with Clark County. Clark County will be housing the females for us.
Good.
So we took care of that. Other than that, things are moving well. We've done the teleconferencing with some of the with the iPad. So with the judges and the state's attorney, we've had a few little glitches, but it's worked out well. We've been at it and been able to have a couple hearings. So
Derek?
Do you have figure out your chow plan, or what's the latest on that?
what's that?
For the inmates, the food?
Food service is still getting worked out. The guys are getting their, Jay's got them taking their training and all that stuff to be food service handlers. I don't know if we've been getting our meals, between various locations here in town. So that's been working out so far in the time that we've had to provide it. So I know it's a work in progress, but they're working on it.
How about the nursing issue? Remember, we had some issues because of work comp and so forth. Are those squared away?
I don't know if that's squared away just yet. I know we've had discussions with the hospital, and Jay and Jeff have had discussions.
Okay.
I don't know if we've reached anything yet or not.
It was coverage of work comp coverage of the individual that the hospital would send to the jail to perform the things that are necessary to meet jail requirements. And there was some interaction there that we had to get straightened out, right?
Yes.
Basically, we have to have them find a way, if, in order to insure any medical staff, we have to find a way to have them on payroll in order to cover them with insurance.
That's correct.
So.
Or they have to be
They gotta be accounted
or they could be a
for, or contract.
Oh, your contract.
contract.
Sure, yeah, so
Thank
there has
you.
to be a method of payment to the individual, so I don't know, and there's probably some precedent out there in other places.
I'm sure there
We
is.
don't have it in
Yeah,
place,
I'm
but.
sure there is. And I know we got some, I know we checked with Crawford County and some of the surrounding counties on how they do it. So I know we were getting that info. And
I just want to make sure the board was aware, because it may affect our ultimate budget a little bit, so, okay?
Because that's separate from the nurse that comes in and does the stuff.
that's correct.
Oh, now I'm confused.
Could have
Well,
good numbers.
We've got one nurse that comes in every week,
Yeah,
once a week, and does the screenings and approves the in and out the medicine stuff, but then you have, I guess, we're having to have additional staff come from the hospital to do something.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and that dynamic, I don't know exactly how that.
Well, I remember that was a concern that the insurance company had.
Yes.
And something in addition to what we already had. Yeah, I remember something.
Where does
about
this
that.
current nurse come from? Is it?
She's a local person. She's been doing it for several years.
Yes.
So independent, she doesn't work for Horizon Health or anything?
No.
No, she's not.
So is she, we pay her as a contractor, and therefore she is covered by our
That's right,
insurance.
yes.
So the nurse practitioner from Horizon has to have a similar arrangement or something.
Exactly.
Not-
And
not
the
discussed
insurance company wanted a nurse practitioner, which we were able to, Sam McCarty, and the hospital staff was able to line one up for us, more than willing to help us out. However, we ran into this little glitch on how to do the work payment.
And I assume that's if any medical care, dental comes to mind, just because I was involved in that one years ago.
Prison dental.
Long story, I'll explain it.
I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, so I mean, what was, prior to this concern about the insurance, what was the arrangement with Horizon as far as payment to them before that, had that been discussed?
I don't think that's been discussed. If I had, I wasn't.
I feel like there should be a fairly easy answer here.
I think so. I think there is an easy answer. I think you just kind of, you know, like, everything was moving, you know, instead of boom, we got stopped, you know, I think it was that
Yeah.
initial, oh, now what?
Right.
I assume as far as looking at reopening, that, you guys are doing whatever you can as far as COVID screening and stuff, just, I'm sure nobody wants to get a COVID outbreak going in that jail, so.
No, definitely now.
Yeah.
Definitely now, yes. Everybody gets their temperature taken before they enter the building. We have the mask there. Our dispatch center's completely cut off from anyone else being allowed in there, so.
And inmates coming in, I assume if the temperature's high, they
Yes. and
end
wear
up going
masks.
to a hospital first or whatever.
And we've actually taken a couple out for tests, so.
Okay. The only other thing is, there was training protocol. Are we set up to, once we open the jail, for not only the jail staffs, but the deputies, there was protocol for training on a monthly basis? Is that,
Yes, we'll be getting that started, yes.
okay, I just covering the bases. To the budget end, Don and Augie are working on getting a budget out to the different departments. Should be sometime this week or the first of next week, and they'll be due in the Friday after Labor Day. So we're working on that. So. Anything else from the sheriff? Yes. I'm not gonna stop the meeting, I just meant for. Do you have anything, Dan?
We did get the road fixed out at the animal shelter. Andrew called me last week, really excited about a new road, so I'd like to thank Aaron Lawson for finally getting it done.
Looks like a super highway. I was out
Yes, it
there
does. He said-
Looks good.
Saturday.
So now I can vote for
You
it.
have to pick your dog
We're
back.
doing on his contract.
Well, that's good. He'll be happy.
He'll be happy.
He'll feel very
It's
secure.
really, really nice.
Okay.
Other than that, no.
Phil? John?
I have nothing.
Again, we should be getting here in the next day or so that new, but not a new ordinance, but the
Yeah.
revised ordinance for the windmill.
I will check my email tonight with any luck.
And I'll give him a little jingle just to remind him, okay?
That one,
Yes,
on the
please.
windmill, it's Hume in Edgar County, isn't it?
No.
About
We were past here, yes, it must be like 20,
38,
38, but
And they're running, some of them.
my son's a road commissioner up there, he's had lots of fun with that.
not bad.
You're
Yeah.
talking Newman now?
Newman, Newman.
Newman, not him.
Yeah,
Hume
yeah,
was
yeah,
part of it.
yeah, there's a bunch of them.
Just
And
wanted to.
Hume is, but.
Oh, that's close. Hume's close.
Carl, do you have anything? I've got stuff on negotiations and so forth that we'll ask Derek to stay for. Derek, do you have anything?
Come up our busy season at the airport.
Yeah,
It's
so
already running.
crop dusters. Yeah.
Well, there's a chance this is your last meeting.
Yeah.
He's going like this.
Getting the cake, was he?
Yeah. Where's my cake?
I wouldn't say something, I'll get in trouble.
Again?
Where's stopping before?
Augie, do you have stuff?
Well, what I want to bring up is just mention of the insurance committee recently met.
Great. Yeah.
Now I've got to remember what happened. Basically, we got the essence of a bid packet together, and Augie was doing a cover letter and getting that out
And advertising too.
and advertise, right. Getting that together and advertising it how we advertise, so.
And I'm signing the document with our current company that they're requesting that says that we are gonna be, we have to let them know 90 days prior to the the
Oh, okay.
anniversary date, So we want to make sure we do that, otherwise we don't
Otherwise,
get to do.
we're married to them.
Right,
Yeah.
and so we're doing that today,
Okay,
okay?
thanks
Is
for that update.
that November 30th
Yes,
on the liability you're talking about?
yes.
Yeah, I mean, the brunt of the meeting was spent going through the bid documents for every company that we were gonna put them out to, just questions about how we run things. So we went through those and,
And basically passed them on to whoever knew the answers.
yeah, there was a few we didn't know.
Which was great. That was very well needed. I know Andy talked to Kurt Good, and he is receiving the percentage, if there is an increase, percentage increase, and we're already working with them on a negotiated, like he does every year. I think last year we got one for 9, and it wound up percent increase, and it wound up being, what, 3.5, 4%?
And that's the health insurance,
Right.
which is independent, which
Right.
is separate. Yeah.
I know, I'm just,
Right, I know, I'm just clarifying in case somebody
yeah, I wasn't very
missed
clear
the
on that.
agent change.
So we're working on that, so it's imperative that we get that as quickly as we can, because we need to meet with different groups in the county to make sure that if there is, and I hope there isn't, a large increase, that we look at with everybody how we can mitigate that, so, all right? Anything else, Augie?
Not to go into detail yet, but Wednesday, for some reason, I thought we got a board meeting Wednesday.
Seems like it,
It
doesn't it?
just seems like it. I'm going to present to you the status of where we are with the vote by mail requirement.
Oh, yeah.
Senate Bill 1863 requires mandatory mailing of an application. Gary and I are going to get together tomorrow, and so we're going to talk about that, but I want to get you some accurate information. In particular, the law does call for November 3rd to be a state holiday, and of course that's not on the approved list that the board has approved, but I wanted to speak with Judge Garst and get his take on it, along with the chairman's take on it, so I'll have some more information.
We need to deal with that this
Yes.
first meeting of the month.
Yes, that's where I was going with
Just a
that.
question about that, Augie. So when we discussed a few months ago about a ballot for everyone, a mail ballot for everyone, there was a prohibitive cost associated with that. So what about, I assume that this mailing that's going out currently is going to be much less just based on the size of the packet, or is that not necessarily the case? We send, like, what is the cost to the county to mail something to every household?
We don't have to do that. That's the first thing.
Correct.
Well,
The-
we're sending one out to notify, is that?
No.
We're sending out an application to every voter who voted in the last 3 elections.
So it doesn't go to
It's
everybody.
an application.
Tracking
to
by
vote.
mail,
By
correct?
mail,
Okay.
yes. And now, our vendor is doing that for us. We've contracted with them to perform that service. I don't have the manpower or the know-how to do all of that. So in those, it's a postcard, it's a bounce back with a request for an application. So once we get that, then up until, those have to go out by August 1st. And then any that come back, Liberty, going to mail out the ballot, the whole package, up until end of September, first part of October. Then we take over from there and we do that process.
And they bill us?
And then, well, yeah, it's, in round numbers, it's $5,000 for that service. We could have, if you put the pen to it, we could do it a little cheaper, but I don't have the manpower nor the knowledge to get that all done. And I'm sure I've missed some expense somewhere in there. So they're
our first
familiar
time.
with the database and the process, and they're doing it for 20, 30 other counties, so that's their wheelhouse.
So just so I'm clear, 5,000 covers the postcards or any ballots that they have to send out as well?
That is correct. their cost of it between now and, like I said, I think it's, don't hold me, but October 1st, roughly, maybe it's the 4th. From that point on, I mean, that's for them.
Right.
And of course, that's gonna fluctuate a bit because of the number of ballots that come back, or the requests that come back. Okay, so, it won't be more than that from them, but it could be less than that. Because we may not get all the applications back.
Sure.
So, but then from October the 1st, 4th, whatever that date is, then it's on us.
Last month.
Yeah, the last month that'll be on us.
And you would expect that the request coming to you from October 1st on would be the standard method, people reach out, call the office, or whatever is normally done, right?
Yes, that's correct. We send them the application, the request for a vote by mail ballot, then,
So, this is on a hypothetical, and sorry, I'm being
No.
thick here. So, let's say that 100% of those postcards come back with the affirmative, yes, I want a mail-in ballot. Our total cost all in is $5,000?
yes, because that's built in to, they already know the number that's going out, and we're planning for the number, hypothetically, them all coming back. So that's why I'm saying it could be a little bit less. That
Sure,
Will
but
be less.
I guess my thought was, when we had this discussion previously, the number that you quoted was significantly higher than $5,000.
Yeah, well, that was probably due to unknown,
Well, we didn't know who we were gonna have to mail out to.
yeah. I
Then,
didn't,
since it's just the last 3 elections, that eliminated a great deal
As opposed
of
to-
mailing.
as
Okay.
opposed to total registered voters. See,
Right.
we just
Okay.
didn't know, that was still, he hadn't
I'm
signed the
with you.
bill yet,
Okay,
so.
that's on me, okay.
John?
Yeah, once the mail-in ballots are returned to your office, will they be handled by the judges the way the old absentee ballots always are? Or what's the actual method for counting those?
The law requires us to set up a 3-panel election judge group to verify signatures based on their voter application card. So it's gonna be labor intensive for that. There's some talk that has to be done every 2 days, so trying to figure out in our zone, getting ideas on how best to do that, because money is an issue.
So it's
And,
gonna be handled by, they're all gonna be lumped together for the county rather than going to the individual precincts, the way the absentees always were? Or-
Correct. Nothing goes out to the no absentee ballot goes out to the precincts. They all come back to my office, where the panel of judges are going to open those up, verify, document, and then we will run it through our tabulator.
Technically, the precincts haven't been getting absentees for,
Well, not since my tenure.
yeah,
No, well, I haven't been an election judge for 20 years, so, okay,
I think a lot of things have changed.
yeah. What else is new? I ought to be used to that.
Doesn't mean it's better, it's just changed.
So the good thing about all of this is, while we front the money for the expense, we are entitled to some grant money. It's a reimbursement grant. And so round numbers, we've been tagged for ballpark 30,000. And I don't foresee us hitting that. But we're not there yet, you know. We are gonna be, I think I mentioned that, we're gonna be supplied with gallons of hand sanitizer from Anheuser-Busch. And so that's gonna be nice. I'm gonna have some other signage, optional signage that I'm gonna put out, distancing, you know, just all that COVID-related stuff.
And I know it probably doesn't need to be said, but if you want to go in and vote the old-fashioned way on election day, you can do it.
Absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely.
Oh, man, you couldn't do that
No,
anymore.
no, I want to make it clear, because I've already, and I asked,
Thank you.
you can go in, if if nobody wants any of these deals, you can go in and vote the old-fashioned way.
Because you're gonna get an application to vote, a postcard.
And you can
And
just
then
throw
you
that
can-
away.
You can toss it if you want.
So we
And
need to
early
make,
voting starts September 24th.
so,
Now, after you vote, you're gonna scrub down with hoses and brushes after it, but I mean, that's fine.
I just wanna make it.
And Augie's gonna try to make sure that you don't mail your ballot in and still go in
Right, I
and,
was gonna say, yeah.
and vote in person.
I think it's important that we make sure that we let the electorate know that they can vote the old-fashioned way, that they are not going to be required to vote this new way.
And it states that on a postcard that is going out. It's a big postcard mailer thing. So it gives you some options. You go to our website, you call in, or you can just go on election day.
Go as a family like you always have.
And is your early voting gonna be open the way it always says, 30 days ahead of time in your office?
Yeah, we
Is that
start
gonna be
mailing
open?
ballots 40 days out.
Okay.
Early voting starts at 24th,
But I can come in here and vote starting when?
September 24th.
Right. Or you can wait and go to
November
your
3rd.
precinct.
And send in the other.
So you've got, right?
Democrats are a little low this.
Well, there's
Um,
my update, so.
I
good
appreciate it.
question.
I mean,
Any more
it's, we
questions?
dealt with some, and you'll get us more information the next time we talk.
Yeah, Gary, there's our interview right there.
No, it's not.
Well, okay.
So see, Derek,
Well,
with two
but I mean-
addresses now, you can vote 6 times.
Sweet.
Yeah. Go for Trump twice.
Yeah, if you handle it right, Derek. Never mind.
Now, we're
I voted
watching
for you, Mayor,
Lorenzen.
8 times.
You're on the radar, don't worry, buddy.
That's fair, that's fair.
By the way, tax collections are double what they were this time last year.
Everybody has
Okay.
any money,
So
Well, I still have to file with them.
Stimulus.
Thursday or Friday, last year we were at 3%. This year we're at 6%. That was Friday, but I mean, we're fast approaching 8% right now, so. So everybody's paying just like they have been. They're writing a check for the whole thing. So. At any rate, is there any other questions? We need to go into exec session for just a few minutes on personnel and on negotiations. Do I hear a motion to that effect? Derek moves, Carl seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Do you have any questions, Gary?
No, I think I'm good.
All right. And, okay, we're out of exec session. Is there anything else to come before the study session this morning? Hearing none, a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Derek, then John. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thank you.